I never thought I'd say this, but my wedding day was the loneliest day of my life. There I was, standing under a white arch made of fake roses, choking on my tie and watching the woman I thought I'd spend forever with walk down the aisle in a dress that could have stolen the breath from anyone. Her name was Erin. Everyone called her a knockout. She had the kind of smile that made waiters forget your order and eyes that pulled you in like a riptide. I was just a regular guy, worked construction most of my life, drove a reliable truck, wore jeans until they fell apart. Somehow, she said yes to me. Looking back, I should have seen the signs. A guy like me doesn't end up with a woman like that without some sort of catch. I thought maybe I'd gotten lucky. Turns out, I was the punchline to a joke I didn't know was being told. The ceremony was picture perfect on the outside. My buddies from the crew showed up in wrinkled shirts, my mom cried through the whole thing, and Erin's side looked like a fashion catalog. Her ex was there, too, Mark. I didn't invite him. Erin insisted. He's just a friend, she said a few weeks before the wedding. We dated in college. It's ancient history. Besides, he helped me get through a tough time in my life. He's harmless. Harmless. I held on to that word like it was gospel. So there we were. Vows exchanged, kisses shared, glasses clinked. The music kicked up and everyone danced like life was good. I should have felt on top of the world, but instead I had this weird pressure in my chest, like something was off. I chalked it up to nerves. Or maybe too many beers too fast. It wasn't until I went looking for Erin later that night that everything started unraveling. The reception was winding down. Folks were drunk and happy, slurring goodbyes and hugging strangers. I hadn't seen Erin in a bit, so I figured she went off to freshen up or grab something from the bridal suite. I checked the suite, empty. Checked the courtyard. Nope. Then I went around to the back patio, where the string lights barely reached, and I heard them. Whispers. Laughter. Breathing. I should have turned around right then. But I didn't. I walked around the corner and saw her. My bride. In her dress. Pinned up against the brick wall by none other than Mark. Their faces were so close I thought they were sharing a secret. But then she kissed him. Not the kind of kiss you give your grandma or a cousin at Thanksgiving. This was lips on lips, hands roaming, eyes closed, world shutting out kind of kiss. The kind I thought only belonged to me now. I didn't yell. I didn't charge at him like I wanted to. I just stood there like a damn scarecrow. Hollow. Frozen. Erin saw me first. Her eyes widened for a second, then dropped into a squint like I was the one who'd done something wrong. Babe, it's not what it looks like, she said, wiping her mouth and stepping away from Mark like he was the one who came on to her. I remember every word of what came next like it was carved into my skull. It was just a kiss, she said. A friendly one. You're being insecure again. God, you can be such a loser sometimes. Mark didn't say a word. Just adjusted his shirt collar and strolled off like he didn't just break the one rule you don't break at a wedding. Erin followed me back inside, acting like I was overreacting, like my whole world didn't just tilt sideways. I didn't make a scene. Maybe I should have. But I kept thinking about all the people still there. The cake hadn't even been cut yet. My mom was smiling. My friends were drunk. I felt like a ghost in my own life. That night, when we got to the hotel, she tried to climb into bed like nothing happened. Said I was making a big deal out of nothing. Called me dramatic. I stared at the ceiling for hours, wondering what the hell I'd gotten myself into. Weeks passed. I tried to pretend it was a mistake. Maybe a fluke. She swore nothing else happened with Mark. Said it was heat of the moment, some leftover emotion from years ago. I wanted to believe her. God help me, I wanted to. Then, about 2 months later, she told me she was pregnant. I wanted to be happy. I tried to be. But something didn't sit right. I couldn't explain it. Call it instinct, call it gut, but it didn't feel like mine. Not really. And deep down, I think I already knew. I didn't say anything when she told me she was pregnant. Just stood there in the kitchen, gripping a coffee mug like it was the only thing keeping me tethered to the floor. Erin was glowing, smiling like she'd just won a prize. She touched her belly, still flat, of course, and said it like it was a blessing. "I think this baby is exactly what we need," she whispered, her eyes welling up. A fresh start. Fresh start. That phrase stuck in my throat like a chicken bone. She had no idea I hadn't slept properly since the wedding. That every night I stared at the ceiling, hearing the rustle of her dress in that courtyard, replaying Mark's hands on her. That kiss. The way she looked at me afterward, like I was the one who needed to apologize. But I nodded, like some fool on autopilot, and said, "Yeah. Maybe." The next few weeks blurred by. She started planning baby names, buying little onesies with cute sayings on them. Her friends threw a mini celebration brunch. I sat through it like a wax figure, smiling and nodding while everyone talked about how lucky the baby would be to have parents like us. I started doing math in my head every time I got a quiet moment. Counting weeks. Going back to the wedding night. The timing wasn't adding up, not cleanly. But when I asked her, real soft like, how far along she thought she was, she snapped. "Why are you asking that?" she barked, her eyes narrowing. "What, are you trying to say it's not yours?" I didn't say anything. I just stood there, frozen again like I had on our wedding night. "You're paranoid," she hissed, brushing past me. "Always have been." God, it's exhausting. That's when it started turning in me. That little ember of suspicion flared into something hotter. Something that didn't just sit inside me, it moved. Burned. I started checking her phone when she left it lying around. She had a lock on it now. New one. Not our usual anniversary date anymore. Changed it without telling me. I noticed texts from an unsaved number, messages quickly deleted. Calls that showed up as, no caller ID. I wasn't stupid. I grew up with brothers who lied to their girlfriends for sport. I knew the signs. I just never thought I'd see them from my own wife. Finally, I hit a wall. I told her I wanted a paternity test. She laughed in my face. Actually laughed. "You really are insecure," she spat. "You want to shove a swab into my mouth because you're too much of a man-child to trust your own wife?" I told her I wasn't accusing. I just wanted to be sure. If it was mine, great, we'd move forward. But if it wasn't, I didn't even know what came after that. I just needed the truth. She stormed out. Disappeared for hours. Came back with red eyes and a fresh attitude. "Fine," she said. "You want a test? Let's do it. Then you'll finally shut up and stop being a loser." That word again. Loser. Like I was beneath her. Like she'd done me a favor marrying me and now I had the audacity to ask questions. We went to the clinic together. Sat in awkward silence in the waiting room, flipping through magazines like strangers. They did the test. Took a few weeks for results. Longest few weeks of my life. When the results came in, I opened the envelope alone. She said she didn't want to be there, for the drama. And there it was. Plain as day. 0% probability of paternity. It hit me like a steel beam. No chance. Not a shred of me in that kid. I didn't cry. I didn't throw anything. I just sat down at the kitchen table and stared at those words until the ink blurred. Then I folded the paper, slid it into my back pocket, and waited. When she came home, I handed her the results. She scanned them quick, her face unreadable. Then, with a scoff, she said, "Well, I guess you got what you wanted." That was it. No apology. No explanation. Just that cold, smug stare like I was a nuisance. Like I'd dared to shine a light on a truth she'd rather keep buried. I asked her who the father was. She shrugged. "It doesn't matter. You weren't man enough to handle being a husband. You sure as hell wouldn't make a good father." And then, without blinking, she said it. "It's Mark's." Like she was admitting she'd left the oven on. Like it was nothing. She turned to walk upstairs like the conversation was over. And that's when something inside me snapped. Not loud. Not violent. Just, clean. Cold. I didn't yell. I didn't curse. But right then, I knew one thing for certain. She thought she won. And I don't know what kind of guy that makes me, but I couldn't let that stand. So I got to work. After that night, things shifted. Not out in the open, Erin still played her role. She walked around the house like nothing happened, humming while she folded baby clothes, acting like I was still the idiot who'd hold her purse while she kissed her past behind my back. But I wasn't the same man anymore. Something had gone quiet in me. The kind of quiet you feel in the eye of a storm. I still went to work every day, swinging a hammer and pretending like I wasn't unraveling from the inside. My buddies didn't notice. Or maybe they did and didn't say anything. Small-town men like us, we keep things bottled up until they either explode or rust us out. The first real move I made was renting a storage unit on the other side of town. It was small, barely enough space for a mattress and a folding chair, but that's all I needed. I bought a burner phone. Started calling in favors. A buddy of mine, Jake, owed me from years back when I covered his tail during a messy breakup. He knew a guy who specialized in, let's just call it, digital cleanup. Surveillance. Phone cloning. Real sneaky stuff. I didn't give him Erin's name right away. I just asked general questions, hypothetical like. He told me it was doable, phones could be cloned in seconds if you had access, computers too. So I waited until she went out to meet friends one night, and I copied everything, her iPhone, her laptop, even the iCloud backup. She'd changed her passwords, but they weren't clever. Same dog's name she always used, Rusty, her old golden retriever. Dead 5 years now. What I found gutted me. Dozens of deleted texts from Mark. Some recent, some stretching back to weeks before the wedding. Pictures. Filthy ones. Talk about how she missed what they used to have and how I was just a boring fallback. There was even a video. I won't go into detail, but let's just say it was shot in the back of a car, and it sure as hell wasn't my truck. But that wasn't the worst of it. The worst part was a voice memo. Her voice, late at night, whispering like she was laying in bed beside him, not me. He's so easy to manipulate. If I push the right buttons, he folds like laundry. I'll milk this marriage as long as I need to, at least until the baby's born. Then maybe I'll go back to Mark full-time. We'll figure something out. I sat there in that storage unit, listening to that message on repeat until the battery died on the phone. My fists were clenched the whole time. I didn't cry. Not then. That would come later, and not the way I expected. At that moment, I just felt something settle inside me. A plan. She didn't know it, but she handed me the keys to her own destruction. You don't build houses for 20 years without learning how things come apart. You don't live in a small town your whole life without knowing people, people who can do favors, people who don't ask questions. The first thing I did was get a lawyer. Not just any lawyer. A shark. One I met through a guy I used to pour concrete with who went through a nasty divorce. This guy didn't do polite paperwork, he did damage. He helped me draw up papers quietly, slowly, without tipping Erin off. We put everything into motion, asset tracing, phone records, paternity evidence, all lined up and ready for the kill shot. But revenge, real revenge, it ain't loud. It's patient. It waits. It digs in and grows roots. While I played the part of the dumb husband, she continued her act. Still called me babe in front of others. Still invited friends over like we were the perfect couple. And me? I smiled. I rubbed her back when she complained about being tired. I picked up prenatal vitamins like the good little lapdog she thought I was. And then I started feeding her lies. Little ones. Oh, my company's got a big bonus coming in next month. I think we should open a joint account, for the baby. Let's wait on the divorce thing. I think we're finding our groove again. She bought every word. Because liars like her believe everyone else is dumb enough to fall for the same tricks they use. By the time the 6th month rolled around, I had everything in place. Evidence? Check. Legal documents? Check. A secret recording of her admitting the baby wasn't mine? Oh yeah. Crystal clear. She said it on a FaceTime call with Mark, not realizing her phone was streaming straight to my storage unit laptop. But I wasn't just going to serve her with papers and walk away. That'd be too easy. She needed to hurt. Not physically. I wasn't raised that way. No, she needed to feel the sting of humiliation. Just like I had. And I had the perfect idea brewing. The idea came to me while I was walking through Walmart, of all places. Erin had asked me to pick up decorations for her baby shower. She gave me a list written in her neat little cursive: streamers, balloons, pastel plates with little baby ducks on them. I stared at that paper like it was some kind of joke. This woman was carrying another man's child, pretending everything was normal, and now she wanted me to throw her a party? That's when it clicked. If she wanted a party, I'd give her one she'd never forget. I called her sister, Megan, and offered to help organize the shower. Megan was all for it, said she'd take care of the invites if I handled the venue and food. I said sure, acting like the perfect husband who just wanted to support his glowing wife. We booked the community center 2 weeks out. I paid for a caterer, ordered cupcakes with little pink and blue frosting, even rented one of those big mommy-to-be banners that hang over the head table. And I invited everyone. Her family, my family, our friends, her co-workers, even Mark. He didn't know I knew, of course. I added his name to the list as if he were just another friend of Erin's from the past. And I sent the invitation from Megan's email. She'd given me access so I could update RSVPs. I had to make sure he came. On the day of the shower, Erin was glowing again, hair curled, dress hugging her bump, smiling like a celebrity on a red carpet. She kissed me on the cheek and whispered, "Thank you for being so good to me." I almost laughed. Almost. People trickled in slowly. Laughter, small talk, the usual. Megan led the games. Someone made Erin a sash that said, "Future Mama." Her mom cried during a toast. It was all so painfully wholesome, I felt like throwing up. And then Mark showed up. He walked in wearing a leather jacket, sunglasses still on like he thought he was in a movie. He gave a stiff nod to the room and made his way toward Erin. She looked up, surprised for a second, then masked it with a smile so fake I could see the glue cracking. They hugged. Too long. I stepped up beside them, smiling wide, and said, "Glad you could make it, Mark. Haven't seen you since the wedding." His mouth twitched, but he played cool. "Thanks for the invite, man." "Oh, no problem. Wouldn't be a celebration without all the important men in her life." His brow twitched, just a fraction. Now, it was time for the real show. I cleared my throat and raised my glass. "Can I have everyone's attention?" The chatter died down. "I just want to say a few words about the woman I married, and the journey we've been on." Aaron, you've been full of surprises. People chuckled. Aaron smiled nervously. I remember the day we got married, I went on. How beautiful you looked, how happy you were. How lucky I felt. She nodded slowly, unsure now. And I remember something else from that day, too, I continued. Something not many people saw. A kiss. A little, friendly kiss, with Mark, right behind the barn while the band was playing. Gasps. Some heads turned toward Mark, others stared at Aaron. Her smile vanished. But hey, I said, keeping the smile on my face like it was stapled there, everyone makes mistakes. Right? A kiss is just a kiss. Unless, of course, it leads to a baby. Now the room went dead silent. Aaron's mouth opened, but nothing came out. And since we're all gathered here today to celebrate that baby, I said, holding up the manila envelope in my hand, I thought I'd share a little something. I pulled out the paternity test and read it loud and clear. Probability of paternity, 0%. Someone dropped a glass. A baby started crying. Erin's face was pale, like all the blood drained out of her body. Oh, and before anyone thinks I'm bluffing, I added, holding up my phone, I've got her own words recorded, saying the baby's marks. Saying I'm not man enough. Saying I'm a loser. Aaron lunged forward, trying to grab the phone. I stepped back. No. You've had plenty of time to talk. Now it's my turn. I turned to face the guests. For the past 6 months, I've been lied to. Cheated on. Humiliated. But no more. This is where I draw the line. I'm filing for divorce. And Mark? He looked up, frozen. I've got copies of your texts. Videos. Even one of you talking about how she's gonna bleed me dry. I'd start looking for a good lawyer. Erin was sobbing now, begging under her breath, saying things like, please, not like this. But it was too late. The truth was out. And it landed like a bomb. I walked out of that baby shower without a backward glance. Left her standing in a pile of pastel decorations, exposed for the liar she was. People would talk, oh, they'd talk for years. And that suited me just fine. Because I wasn't the loser anymore. I was just getting started. They say when a wildfire's done tearing through the woods, the land can finally breathe again. For the first time in months, I knew what that meant. After the baby shower blow-up, the fallout came fast and messy. Erin tried to do damage control, but you can't put toothpaste back in the tube once it's all over the counter. People whispered. Some were sympathetic, but most weren't. In small towns, folks might not know your favorite song, but they sure as hell remember your worst mistake. And this? This was a headline. The next day, I was at my lawyer's office before she even got out of bed. We filed for divorce citing infidelity and emotional abuse. With the paternity results, the evidence, the recordings, and the texts, it was all airtight. My lawyer, Frank Maddox, a stone-faced man with gray sideburns and eyes that didn't blink, said, "You gave me more ammo than I usually get in a full custody case." "And I don't even want the baby," I said flatly. "It ain't mine." Frank nodded. "This'll be clean and fast. Unless she tries to fight dirty." She did, of course. 3 days after she was served, I got a long, rambling message from Erin, half apology, half manipulation. She claimed she made a mistake, said she never meant to hurt me, that she was just confused, and that she only kept up the lie because she was scared of losing everything. She ended it with, "I still love you. Can't we just talk? Talk?" After all the nights I sat in that storage unit, listening to her call me a loser? After watching her pretend to love me in front of my own mother? I didn't respond. I sent her message straight to Frank. He laughed and added it to the file. What followed was a legal storm. She tried to stall the divorce, asked for alimony, even tried to say I emotionally neglected her during pregnancy. But none of it stuck. I kept receipts. I had photos of prenatal appointments I drove her to, vitamin deliveries, recorded voice notes of me offering help while she brushed me off like lint. She underestimated me. That was her fatal mistake. The judge didn't take long to side with me. In fact, he all but scolded her in court. This young man supported you emotionally, financially, and physically, while you carried another man's child and lied about it. You're fortunate he's not pressing charges for fraud. She lost the house. She had to move in with her parents in a cramped condo off Route 23. Mark? He ghosted her right after the baby shower. Last I heard, he was seen hauling off in his Camaro headed west, probably chasing some bar waitress in Nevada. The baby was born 3 weeks later. A boy. I saw a picture online, though I didn't go to the hospital. Looked nothing like me, not that it mattered anymore. His birth announcement popped up on my feed, "Welcome to the world, little Liam." Strange thing is, I didn't feel angry when I saw it. Just empty. I'd loved her once. I gave her all I had, my heart, my loyalty, my trust. She ground it all down like gravel under her heel, and now she was stuck holding the pieces with no one left to blame. But I wasn't interested in revenge anymore. Not the petty kind, anyway. I wanted peace. So I started rebuilding my life. I moved out of that house and into a small cabin on the edge of town. It had a porch, 2 rocking chairs, and a big oak tree in the backyard. Quiet. Solitary. Just what I needed. I picked up extra work, framing houses, fixing roofs, welding decks. The kind of labor that leaves your muscles sore and your mind too tired to replay memories. At night, I'd sit on the porch with a glass of whiskey and listen to the wind. Some nights I'd wonder what might have happened if I'd never proposed. Other nights I'd thank God I dodged the long-term bullet. Eventually, the whispers around town died down. People moved on to new gossip. Someone's kid caught stealing from the gas station, the mayor's wife caught flirting with her fitness trainer. Small towns don't stay on one story too long. But every now and then, I'd see Erin around. At the grocery store, mostly. Hair pulled back, looking tired, baby in tow. She avoided eye contact. And I let her. Because the worst kind of revenge is indifference. When someone who once had the power to break you now can't even make you blink. I didn't hate her anymore. I didn't care. And that was the sweetest justice of all. Life has a funny way of pretending to settle. You think the storm's behind you, that you've cleaned up all the wreckage and planted something new, but then, a wind kicks up out of nowhere, and you hear those old shutters banging again. It started with a knock on my door. It was late, almost 10 p.m. I'd just gotten out of the shower, wrapped in a towel, when the knock came. Slow. Hesitant. Like whoever was on the other side wasn't sure if they wanted me to answer. I almost didn't. But curiosity's a hell of a thing. When I opened it, I saw Erin. She looked small. Hollowed out. Hair in a messy knot, no makeup, hoodie too big for her shoulders. Her eyes were red, like she'd been crying. Or not sleeping. Maybe both. "I shouldn't be here," she said first thing. "I agree," I answered, and stepped back just enough to keep the screen door between us. Her voice cracked. I didn't know where else to go. "You've got your parents," I said flatly. She looked down at her shoes. "They're tired of me." Not surprised. I made mistakes. "You destroyed a marriage," I corrected. She nodded like she'd heard it before. Maybe from her own reflection. Then she looked up at me, those same eyes that used to light up when I made pancakes on Sunday mornings. "I'm sorry, okay? I know I don't deserve forgiveness. I know I ruined everything. She paused. I don't know who I am anymore. And right then, I believed her. Not in a soft, romantic way, just in a human one. I could see it plain as day. She was broken. Not because of what I'd done to her, but because of what she'd done to herself. But that didn't mean I owed her a damn thing. I think you should leave, I said. She didn't argue. She nodded, turned, and walked back to her car, an old sedan that looked like it hadn't seen an oil change in a year. She drove off without another word. I stood there on the porch, towel still damp around my waist, heart pounding with a strange mix of calm and adrenaline. Like I'd just defused a bomb. The next day, I saw her again. This time at the grocery store. She was in the baby aisle, holding a box of diapers, talking softly to Liam. The kid was in the cart, chewing on one of those plastic giraffes. He looked happy. Oblivious. She looked up when she saw me. Didn't smile. Just gave a small nod. I nodded back. That was it. Something shifted after that. Not between us, really. But in me. I realized I didn't hate her. Not anymore. Hate takes effort. And I'd put in enough effort. What I felt now was more like distance. Like seeing someone you used to know in a dream, but their voice doesn't sound the same anymore. A week later, she sent me a letter. A real one. Folded paper, pen ink, my name written in cursive across the envelope. I read it twice. She didn't ask for anything. Didn't beg to get back together. It was more like a confession. She said she'd started therapy. Said she wanted to be better, for herself, for her son. Not for me. She thanked me for what I'd done at the baby shower. Thank you for finally holding a mirror up to me, she wrote. I needed it, even if it shattered everything. I folded the letter and put it in a drawer. Not because I wanted to keep it, but because I didn't feel like throwing it away yet. That weekend, I drove out to the lake. Sat by the edge with a cooler of beer and an old tackle box. Didn't even cast a line. Just watched the water shift in the wind. I realized I was healing. For real this time. Not because I got revenge. Not because she was miserable. But because I'd finally chosen myself. And man, that felt like freedom. It's strange how peace can be loud. After all the chaos, after the wedding betrayal, the courtroom battles, and Aaron's ghostly return, I figured things might finally fall silent. But healing isn't quiet. It churns under the skin, rattles your bones when the sun sets, whispers when you least expect it. And yet, I kept waking up clear-headed. I wasn't jumping at shadows or rereading her old texts. I wasn't replaying our wedding night in my mind, or imagining her in that hotel room with her ex while I was outside shaking hands and cutting cake. I'd stopped searching for meaning in the hurt. I was just living. The cabin had become more than a place, it was home. I planted a garden out back, put in a wood-burning stove, and even built a swing under the oak tree. I wasn't doing it for anyone else this time. No hidden hopes she'd see it and change her mind. This was all mine. About a month after I got her letter, something unexpected happened. Her ex, the friendly kiss guy, Mark, showed up in town again. I saw him outside the gas station, leaning against a rental truck, talking to some kid about brake fluid. Same smug smirk, same lazy posture. The kind of guy who wears his arrogance like it's designer clothing. At first, I didn't say anything. But later that night, I saw Erin again, this time at a local diner. She was with Liam, who'd grown a bit, chewing on pancakes with syrup on his chin. I walked in to grab a coffee to go, and she waved me over. Hey, she said quietly. Mind sitting for a sec? I hesitated, then sat. Not for her. For the kid. He looked up at me and gave a big grin. Poor little guy didn't know a damn thing about betrayal. Just wanted his blueberries. I heard Mark's back, I said. Her face went tight. Yeah. He showed up out of nowhere. Said he wanted to meet Liam. And? I told him no. Not unless he proves he's staying. And not unless he takes a paternity test. Which, spoiler alert, he won't. I nodded. Smart. She sipped her coffee. I know I've got a lot to make up for. I don't expect you to care. But I wanted you to know. I'm not letting him into his life just because he shares DNA. You taught me that blood alone doesn't make someone worth trusting. That hit me harder than I expected. I didn't do it for you, I said. I know, she whispered. That's what makes it matter. We sat there in silence for a moment. Just two ghosts from a ruined marriage sharing coffee at a table once meant for love. I left without saying goodbye. I didn't need to. A few days later, I ran into Mark myself. He was at a bar just outside of town, running his mouth to the bartender about how women were all the same and how Erin trapped him with a kid. I didn't punch him. I didn't even confront him. I just stood behind him long enough for him to feel it, then I walked away. Quiet power, my dad used to call it. The next morning, he was gone again. Word was, he left town the same way he came, fast and dirty, burning bridges behind him. And just like that, the last thread connecting Erin to her lie snapped. I wish I could say that made me feel triumphant. That I walked out onto my porch, arms raised, music swelling like a movie ending. But that's not how real life works. Instead, I stood in my garden, hands dirty, sun on my back, and I felt calm. Not victorious. Not bitter. Just steady. That was the win. A week later, I got another letter. From Erin. Shorter this time. It read. He's gone. For good this time. I won't write again. Thank you, for making me see myself. I hope you find real love someday. Erin. I read it once and burned it in the fire pit out back. Some things don't need saving. But me? I was already saving myself. Spring rolled in quiet that year. The kind of soft, reluctant spring that doesn't announce itself with fireworks or blooming dogwoods, just subtle signs. A green bud here, a bird call there, mornings that didn't bite so hard. The kind of season you had to earn. And I'd earned it. I spent most of my days at the cabin, repairing things that didn't really need fixing. Sanding down the porch swing. Repainting the shutters. Cleaning out the gutters even when they were already clean. Some folks go to therapy. I rebuilt my life with a hammer and a gallon of stain. It felt good to sweat for something again. To use my hands without anger in my chest. One morning, while hauling mulch from the shed, I noticed a truck I didn't recognize parked at the end of the dirt road. Wasn't threatening or anything. Just sitting there like it didn't know where it wanted to go. A woman stepped out. She was around my age, late 30s, maybe early 40s. Short hair, sun hat, holding a camera slung over one shoulder and a clipboard in the other. Hi there, she called, walking up. Sorry to just pop in, I'm with the state's Conservation Survey. We're mapping invasive species and checking on tree health near lakefront properties. This your land? It is, I said, wiping my hands on my jeans. She smiled. I'm Lydia. Matt. Well, Matt, mind if I take a quick look around? I promise not to trample your daffodils. I chuckled and nodded. Help yourself. But I should warn you, my garden's still figuring itself out. She grinned, glanced around, then added, aren't we all? Over the next hour, she walked the edge of my property, took a few notes, and made casual conversation. Nothing heavy. Just enough to learn she was recently divorced too, worked freelance as a photographer, and had a weakness for lemon bars. Before she left, she paused near the gate. "You've done a nice job here," she said, gesturing to the freshly built garden fence and rows of sprouting green. "Thanks. Took me a while to stop rebuilding things out of anger and start planting stuff with patience." "That's a good line," she said. "You should write it down." I didn't. But I remembered it. After she left, I found myself thinking about her more than I meant to. Not in any romantic way, not yet. Just curious. Wondering how someone could seem so light and steady without hiding behind some mask. It wasn't long before I saw her again. At the local feed store, of all places. She was buying birdseed. I offered to help carry her bags to the car. She let me. "You ever eat at that diner off Route 12? She asked as she opened her trunk. I nodded. "Pancakes are good. Coffee's bad." "I like bad coffee," she said with a wink. "You free this Friday?" I stood there for a second too long, like I'd forgotten how to answer simple questions. But eventually I said, "Yeah. I think I am." She smiled. "Then it's a date. You can judge the syrup, I'll judge the coffee." And just like that, life made room for something new. I didn't tell Erin. There was no reason to. That chapter had closed, and whatever she'd become now, it wasn't my concern anymore. What mattered was that I wasn't holding on to what broke me. I wasn't looking back for answers or revenge or apologies. I had a garden that needed watering, a swing that needed sitting, and, maybe, a woman who might just understand what it means to start over without pretending the past didn't happen. Because healing isn't about forgetting. It's about growing something worth keeping. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was finally doing that. The diner off Route 12 still had that same sticky floor and lopsided booth by the window, and the waitress, Fran, still called everyone Han, whether they were 17 or 70. Lydia and I took that booth on our Friday morning breakfast, sipping bad coffee and letting the world slow down a little. She wore a faded denim jacket, same color as the sky that morning. Her hair was tucked behind one ear, and she laughed with that easy kind of confidence, the kind you only earn after crawling through something that damn near broke you. We talked about everything except the things that had ruined us. Instead, we talked about the birds in her backyard, the way the raccoons kept stealing from her compost bin, and how she once got lost in a Colorado canyon because she thought she knew better than the map. "You ever get lost?" she asked me, stirring creamer into her coffee. I took a long sip and smiled. "Only for about 2 years." She looked at me for a second, head tilted. "Marriage?" "Yeah. And everything that came with it." She didn't press. She just nodded. "I'm glad you found the way back out," she said softly. "Me too," I replied. "Took longer than I thought. Cost more than I figured." "Still," she said, "you made it." That moment, it wasn't fireworks or some sweeping realization. It was just a little sigh of relief inside my chest, like my lungs were remembering how to breathe again. After breakfast, we walked outside and leaned against her car. The wind carried the smell of cut grass and something baking over at the pie shop next door. "You doing anything Sunday?" she asked. "Not really. Want to come help me build a compost bin that raccoons can't break into?" I laughed. "Is that even possible?" "Probably not. But we can pretend." So I said yes. That Sunday, I showed up at her place with a toolbox and a 6-pack of root beer. Her backyard was smaller than mine but cozier, with solar lights tucked into flower beds and a porch swing that creaked when you sat on it. We spent the whole afternoon building a raccoon-proof box, which, in the end, looked more like a mini fortress than anything, and then sat on the porch swing while the sun dropped low over the trees. She told me about her ex in pieces. Nothing dramatic. Just quiet truths. He made me feel like I had to shrink to fit his life, she said. And I did. Until I didn't anymore. I nodded. I knew what that felt like. Just from the other side. You think we ever really recover? She asked. I don't know, I said honestly. But I think we learn to carry it without it crushing us. She looked at me then, eyes kind but steady. You don't seem crushed. I was, I said. Now I'm just, weathered. That's not a bad thing. I smiled. You? I'm somewhere between bruised and blooming. That made us both laugh. Before I left, she pressed a jar of homemade jam into my hand, strawberry, labeled in her handwriting. For your toast, she said. For my soul, I joked. She winked. Don't push it, cowboy. Driving back home down the winding road, I rolled the windows down and let the cool evening air rush through the cab. The stars were just starting to show. No music, no distractions, just me and the road and the steady hum of a life quietly rebuilding. Funny how a woman could sleep with her ex on your wedding night, call you a loser, lie about a kiss, and still not be the final chapter in your story. Aaron had been a storm. Lydia felt like spring after the flood. And for the first time, I realized, I wasn't chasing revenge anymore. I was chasing peace. And I was getting damn close. About a month after Lydia and I built that fortress of a compost bin, I got a letter in the mail. Not an email. Not a text. An actual letter, with my name written in that looping cursive I knew too well. Aaron. I stared at the envelope for a full hour before I opened it. It wasn't a long letter. Just a few lines. Matt. I'm sorry for the way I handled everything. You didn't deserve what I did. I was angry, scared, and selfish. I wanted to hurt someone before I got hurt again, and that someone was you. I found out the baby isn't his. It's yours. I didn't want to tell you because I figured you hated me. Maybe you still do. But I thought you should know. Take care of yourself. Aaron. I sat with that letter in my lap, staring out the window for what felt like hours. It didn't knock the wind out of me like I thought it might. Truth was, I had already gone through every stage of grief over her, shock, anger, heartbreak, humiliation, all of it. By now, she was just a closed chapter. But that part? About the baby? That hit differently. I thought about everything that had happened, how she kissed her ex at our wedding, how she slept with him that same night, how she told me I was a loser, called me insecure, tried to spin her betrayal like it was nothing. I remembered the look on her face when I caught them, the smugness, the carelessness. And now she wanted to tell me I was going to be a father? I didn't respond right away. I needed to think. I needed to feel it all, not run from it. Lydia noticed something was different the moment I pulled up that evening. You okay? She asked, handing me a glass of iced tea. Got a letter, I said, sitting beside her on the porch swing. From Aaron. She raised an eyebrow but didn't say anything. She says the baby's mine. Lydia's face didn't change. She just nodded slowly, like she was letting the weight of that sink in. What do you want to do? She finally asked. I don't know yet. We sat in silence. Fireflies blinked in the dark yard, and the distant chirping of frogs filled the air. It was peaceful, so different from how my life had been a year ago. After a long time, I said, I want to meet the kid. Not for her. Not for redemption. Just because. I think I should. It's not the baby's fault any of this happened. Lydia smiled faintly. Then that's what you should do. 3 weeks later, I met Erin in a park near the courthouse. She looked different, tired, softer, like maybe life had finally caught up with her. She was holding a tiny baby girl in a pink blanket. Her name was June. She had a full head of dark hair and a little wrinkle between her brows, like she was already skeptical of the world. I held her. I didn't cry. I didn't smile. I just looked at her and felt this strange warmth I couldn't explain. Like someone had handed me a piece of myself I didn't know I was missing. Erin asked if we could talk. I told her I didn't have much to say. I know I ruined things, she said. I was cruel. I was awful. You were, I said flatly. She blinked like she wasn't expecting honesty. But I'm not here to rehash the past, I continued. I'm here for her. That's it. She nodded. Okay. We made arrangements. Nothing formal yet, but enough. I'd see June twice a month to start. No overnight stays. No long visits. Just slow steps. I didn't want Erin in my life, but I wanted my daughter to know who I was. And I made damn sure to be someone worth knowing. That fall, Lydia helped me plant a whole row of sunflowers along the fence. She said they were good for pollinators. I liked the way they followed the sun. Some evenings, we'd sit out there with lemonade and just watch the sky change colors. Sometimes we didn't talk at all. Just held hands and listened to the wind. One night, after we'd cleaned up dinner, I asked her, "You ever think about starting over again? Like, really starting over?" She tilted her head. With you? Yeah. She smiled, soft and slow. Only every day. So we did. It wasn't a dramatic proposal or a whirlwind romance. It was patient, steady, and real. I never got revenge on Erin. Not the kind I once thought I wanted. No slashed tires. No ruined reputations. No public spectacle. My revenge was quieter. I found peace. I built something better. I let her live with the weight of what she threw away, while I went and grew something beautiful from the ashes. A daughter I'd protect. A woman who saw me for who I was. A life that no betrayal could touch. That was my revenge. And God, was it sweet.